let me get something to drink. Hang on.
Yeah, sure. Okay. İlknur bekle.
Okay, got it.
It's so quick.
Yeah, I just keep a box of the drinks in my office.
We are live now. So welcome everyone.
Drink. Hang on.
Yeah, sure. Just messed up. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe even good night. Welcome everyone. Today, Denise Ruffner with us, and thanks a lot for accepting our invitation, by the way. And I know Denise from Round the World platform and also Women in Quantum platform, and they support women like us, QWorld and QTurkey. And I'm Figen, by the way, and I'm part of Women in Quantum and also QTurkey team. Zeki, would you like to talk about QWomen, QWorld and QTurkey, and also yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Figen. And thank you, Denise, for accepting our invitation. We are really excited to host you today. I'm Zeki, and I'm from Turkey. I'm a PhD candidate in physics, and also one of the founding members of QTurkey and board member of QWorld. As QWorld, we are basically a network of enthusiastic people in quantum technologies from different countries. Currently, we are active in 13 countries, but we are looking to expand, and we have candidate countries as well. Our main activities are introduction to quantum programming workshops. We have this material called Q Bronze, and we are developing the silver, and hopefully it will go like gold, platinum, etc. And other than that, we have internship programs, and we started organizing some hackathons as well. As QTurkey, we are part of most of these activities. It's an entirely volunteering platform. So if you're interested, if you're enthusiastic, you can just get into contact with us, and we would be happy to welcome you to our group. And that's it. So I will leave the floor to Denise right now. And thanks again for joining us today.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Denise Ruffner. I live in Southern California, so you can see through the window. It's early morning, and it's going to be a nice, beautiful day. So I'm very happy to be here. I love to travel to Turkey, and so maybe this is my way of being in Turkey for an hour or so. So I appreciate you welcoming me, and have a lot to talk about. If you want to interrupt and ask a question or put it in the chat, even if it's in Turkish, Zeki and Figen will help me answer the question for you. So let me get started and share my screen. All right. And okay, let's go here. And, oh no, hang on. 1 second. Let me try that again.
Okay, sure. That's okay.
So what happens is the window for Zoom always gets in the way of slideshow. So let me put this in slideshow and move the Zoom window. Okay. So everyone, my name is Denise Ruffner. I have kind of two jobs. So during the day, I'm VP of Business Development for IonQ, which is the leading hardware company in quantum computing. And then in the night and on weekends, I'm president of this organization called Women in Quantum. And it's also a volunteer organization. And I'm going to talk just a little bit at the beginning of this talk about women in quantum, because I want to make sure you all are included. I wanted to show you this artwork. There's a new book out, and it's called ABC, What Can She Be? And it's like a book for little girls on different careers. And so if you open it up, you could be like N is for neurosurgeon. But what I like about the book is Q is for quantum physicist. And so I love the fact that we're starting to educate children that there's something called quantum and that they could be part of it. So I just love this picture. So I wanted to share it with you. Women in Quantum is an interesting story in that when you look at all the executives in the quantum world or quantum technology, we counted 782 executives. And of those executives, only 66 of them are women. And I think everybody on the call, men or women, would agree that diversity is really important in the workplace. And so Women in Quantum was started to start highlighting women and to hopefully emphasize diversity in the workplace and giving people a chance to meet women and help women. So let's talk about this. So Women in Quantum is part of an overall organization called One Quantum. And what our mission is to give our members a community with networks and mentoring and career support and access to all sorts of digital assets or lists or all sorts of information. So we feel really strongly that we want to provide a platform and a way to help you grow in your career. And also this platform, we want to make sure that whatever we do, it's very supportive and authentic and welcoming. And everyone is welcome to Women in Quantum. Doesn't matter your background, your skills, your gender, your race, or your goal, we welcome everyone. So it's a very inclusive platform. Now, what we do is we, in addition to mentoring and some other programs, we have summits. And we just had our 4th summit this past week. It was a 3-day event, and we had speakers from women at all levels of their career. So we had undergraduates, graduate student, postdocs, professors, venture capitalists, a full variety of different speakers. And it's really designed that we want to show you that there's women all over the world in quantum, that there's different roles in quantum, and give you an education on who's who in quantum. Part of the event is networking, and we have a special software program called Run the World Today that matches you up with different people. So you talk to them for 5 minutes and you can meet people around the world. What's important is that we all gain a network of people around us, like Feigen reaching out to me because she knows me, so that we have friends around the world and we can get help or support or education or talks whenever we need it. So networking is really a strong component of the event. This time we also had a career fair, and I'm going to talk more about careers in a little bit, but we had Honeywell, Amazon, Google, Zapata, Zurich Instruments, a lot of great employers at our career fair. And then I want to mention that even though the event is called Women in Quantum, the event is open to everyone. So there's a ton of men attending. We even had a couple male speakers, and the events are free and virtual. So it's pretty easy to sign up, it's free. And what a lot of people will do is go to the talks they're interested in or come for part of the day. Our software allows you to move in and out of it very easily. Okay, so if you want to sign up for Women in Quantum, our organization is at this link, onequantum.org women. If you want to be added to our mail list, you can simply send Brooke at onequantum.org a note and say, add me to your mail list, and we'll add you to our email list. Typically, people find out about events on LinkedIn. So if you want to link with me on LinkedIn, then you know you'll always see event announcements as well. And I'm happy to link with you. Okay. So now, are there any questions on Women in Quantum before I get into some quantum computing?
Not yet. You
Okay,
can continue.
okay, so I'll continue. Thank you. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about quantum computing. And, you know, quantum computers can solve computational problems across a bunch of different industries. And we get a lot of questions on, are quantum computers going to replace classical computers? And the answer is no. We think that there are some problems that are going to be better suited for quantum, and there are some problems better suited for classical. So we think of quantum computers as kind of a specialized supercomputer. Now, what was interesting to me, I'm going to skip that slide. I can come back to it. What is interesting to me is when I started in quantum computing, I was actually surprised because I had spent a lot of my career at IBM selling supercomputers, such as the Summit supercomputer that you see here. And these computers are so big. It's like, of course, they could solve any problem you bring to them, or that was the assumption that I really made. And if we look at Summit, it's cost $200 million. This is a computer that was sold to the US government at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And it has 4,000 plus nodes of compute. It burns 15 megawatts of electricity, which is enough to power 7,000 households. And it's the size of 2 basketball courts, which is very big. And so what we're looking at is this extremely large, extremely powerful computer. But some of the negatives of it is that it takes so much space, as well as it uses a lot of electricity. And also there's 136 miles of cables putting it together. So it's quite an engineering feat to set one up and assemble it, as well as to keep it serviced. Now, if we looked at a quantum computer, and if we wanted to build one let's go this way. If we wanted to take this computer and make it 30 times more powerful, it would probably cost about $1 billion, and it would require enough energy, like from a whole entire nuclear power plant to run the computer. So growing this computer to solve bigger problems is really not practical. Now, what's interesting is a single quantum computer with 50 to 60 qubits would be more powerful than this giant supercomputer. And so this is something that kind of was very interesting to me, especially when you look at the size. So again, on the left-hand side, we have the Summit supercomputer. And on the right-hand side, I show you actually 2. Each of these cylinders is 1 IBM quantum computer. So you can see that quantum computers are a lot smaller. They use a lot less electricity, and they have the capability to greatly overpower a supercomputer in terms of their capabilities. Now, quantum computing has turned into very much of a corporate and nationwide race. And so you'll see companies like mine, or where I work, building a quantum computer. You'll also see countries that have initiatives around quantum computing. So this is a huge effort where we have governments all over the world that are investing in quantum computing. And I have a better chart on the next slide so you can see, if we look at country initiatives for quantum computing, what you can see is that China is leading in terms of investment at $11 billion a year. Next is Germany at $5 billion a year, going down to the US at 3 billion, France at 3 billion, UK at 2, EU. So you can see a lot of investment starting by countries in quantum computing. And this money could be spent on investments in the public and private sector, or startups, or in developing hardware. So these are governments that are saying this is a technology that can greatly improve our country, and we want to make sure that our country is involved in it. I love this quote. Perhaps no other emerging technology spans so many different disciplines with so many potential applications. And that's how I think of quantum computing. Now, while we're not there today, there is a potential for it to do so much in the world. And what excites me, and I'm sure what excites all of you, is the fact that this is really a pivotal technology that we believe, that all of us will believe will change the world. And when we look at industries where quantum computing can be applied, I think we're all aware of chemistry and pharma, where we could do look at protein folding, drug discovery, catalysts and fertilizers, moving on to industrial goods, where there's a lot of opportunity in logistics and planning and distribution and traffic. Information technology, there's a lot of work in machine learning. In our last Women in Quantum Summit, we focused on a day of machine learning, cybersecurity and cryptography, and then finally finance, where there's a lot of work being done by all the major banks on trading strategies and portfolio optimization, fraud detection, a lot of different applications. And this is kind of, just as we say, the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a lot that quantum computing will be able to do. And it's a question of all of you and all of us imagining some new and different solutions and developing them. So it's very exciting. Now, I work for a company called IonQ, and I wanted to keep this as an ecosystem talk, but I wanted to introduce you to our company in case you haven't heard of it. And our company was founded by two very accomplished and just brilliant scientists, Dr. Christopher Monroe and Dr. Jungsang Kim. Doctors Monroe and Kim still to this day have very large labs. They're now both at Duke University, and they continue to do research in trapped ion technology to push the boundaries of what we know. If you look at the history of the company, in 1995, Chris Monroe and Dr. Wineland demonstrated the first quantum gate. And in 2000, they developed the modern native ion trap gate. So at the same time, we have Dr. Kim, who's in Bell Labs, who's proposing a chip-based ion trap architecture. And you can read the slide and you can see that there's an amazing history from these two very brilliant scientists and their labs in developing quantum computing. And what ultimately happened is in 2015, a venture capitalist approached the two scientists and helped them realize that their work could culminate in developing a device, and formed a company around it, which is IonQ. And we're really proud of Doctors Monroe and Kim. They're just tremendous in terms of their research, in terms of their industry knowledge, and they're leading our development of a quantum computer. Now, what we've announced lately, earlier this week, is that our company will be going public, and it's very exciting from a financing point of view to help us further develop our technology. We are very excited about the company's capabilities and how we're going to move forward. All right. Now let's see if it will let me change slides. It's not doing it. So I think you all know that the keys to a high quality quantum computer is to have very high fidelity qubits. So qubits are kind of the working part of the quantum computer. It's important to have low error rates. It's also important in the chip design to have the qubits all connected to each other and that minimizes error, because if the qubits aren't connected, you have to do gate swaps, which decreases the error of your calculation. We want quantum computers that are scalable, because algorithms, as we're developing, are going to require significantly more qubits. And then finally, we want to enable quantum algorithms. And what we're finding is that it's very important. Unique hardware capabilities can maximize the effectiveness of algorithms. What we're seeing is that we can run, so a lot of people will, for example, write an algorithm using a software development kit like Google's Circ or IBM's QuizKit. And what we're finding is you can run these algorithms on different devices, but we also need to tune these algorithms for any particular device to get the most you can out of it. Now, where are we today with the qubit count? IBM has 65 qubits. IonQ has announced 32 qubits. We have Alpine Quantum Technology, AQT, with 22 qubits, and Honeywell has 10 qubits. The reason why I'm showing this slide is because when we started in quantum computing, we realized that the qubit number isn't the only factor that makes a quantum computer good. It's really these factors on this page where you look at fidelity and connectivity and error rates that tell you whether a quantum computer is really powerful or not. And to that end, IBM came up with a metric called quantum volume. And the reason why they came up with quantum volume is they wanted to be able to measure the performance of a quantum computer and kind of encapsulate it in a number, so that we could all have kind of a standard by which to measure quantum computing performance. And then we could compare different quantum computers via this metric and really understand which computers were the best in the world. There's a lot of articles on the internet on quantum volume. My current favorite, if you want to read about it, is this one in the box on the slide. I'm trying to point to it. There's my pointer. And it's by Xanadu, actually, on Penny Lane. And it's a great link. It's a great article that really gives you a good explanation of quantum volume. Now let's go back and just look at this slide. IBM has 65 qubits. They have the most qubits. Honeywell has 10 qubits. But now let's look at and IonQ has 32 qubits. But now let's look at the quantum volumes. And this tells a different story. And so when we look at the quantum volume, IonQ with our 32 qubits, we've claimed a quantum volume of 4.2 million, huge. In the past 2 weeks with 10 qubits, Honeywell has done a beautiful demonstration of a quantum volume of 512. And at the same time, IBM has demonstrated a quantum volume of 128. So what you're seeing is that the two leaders in quantum volume actually have less qubits than IBM. And this is due to the architecture and the modality and error rates and fidelity. And so it's just a very interesting way to evaluate quantum computers, because it shows a slightly different story than just the number of qubits. Now, currently, the other manufacturers that I mentioned on the page have not used this metric. And I think there's a lot of, or I know there's a lot of work being done on trying to come up with a different, maybe I'm not sure better, but a different metric that the whole industry adopts that we can all use to describe our performance. And I think that's something you'll be hearing about in the next year or two. Now, what's interesting about quantum computing is I've worked a lot in the quantum ecosystem, in the quantum software ecosystem. And what's amazing is that, so I worked at IBM Quantum, and I started the Quantum Startup Program. And in January of 2018, when I started this program, so 3 years ago, not that long, we had 8 to 10 quantum computing startups. And I joke that some of these were really small. They were one person, they were 2 people, but they were starting. And so when we put together our first group of startups at IBM, these are the people that we looked at. If we look at the software ecosystem today, globally, you can see that there's startups in countries all over the world. So it's amazing how the number of startups has grown. At last count, I think there are about 400 startups. It changes all the time. So there are a lot of different groups around the world pursuing quantum computing, either through software or through hardware. But I want to point out, I don't see anything in Turkey, so we got to work on that. Okay, so if we look at the software companies, here's some logos. I'm sure there's a lot of ones that you know. Some of the more famous ones are QControl out of Australia, 1QBit out of Canada. Another favorite of mine is Qnesis in Japan, or Q&Co. Do I see Q&Co on here? I don't see them, but it's probably just me. But there's a lot of different startups with a lot of great work going on, including Byte in Poland, Max Kelsen in Australia. So all of these are great companies around the world. If we look at funding, right now the company that has the most funding, according to this study, is Cambridge Quantum Computing. Having worked at Cambridge Quantum Computing, I'm not sure I agree with this number, but they certainly have a lot of funding and are on par with Zapata Computing in terms of funding. There are a lot of other companies out there that are working on funding, and this is through venture funding and grants and a variety of sources. If we look at the hardware companies, there's a lot of hardware companies. My count is 59 hardware companies. Again, located all over the world. Alpine Quantum is in Austria, Alice and Bob is in France, Alibaba in China, Oxford Ionics in the UK. So a lot of different companies around the world that are developing quantum computing. IonQ, of course, is based in the US, in Maryland. And then we have a lot of the big companies like Intel or IBM or Honeywell or Google also working on quantum computing. So there's a lot of people that see this as a huge opportunity and are working on this. This chart just came out in the past week. It's from Michelle Curick, and it's, if you go to LinkedIn, you can see it, but he's put in this circle the different modalities of quantum computing. So whether it's superconducting or photonic or trapped ion like IonQ, and then he's listed all the companies that are doing work and also universities, so that you can kind of parse out who's doing what and where. And I think from a scientific and industry point of view, this is very exciting. And it shows that there are a lot of ways to develop a quantum computer. And I think the proof will be, as we move forward, to see which technologies really emerge as the leaders. One of the things about quantum computing is that talent is very limited. So I was really excited to hear that Zeki is working on his PhD. It's not only opportunities for PhDs, but there are a ton of opportunities right now in quantum computing. And so part of what I want to do in this talk is encourage all of you to continue your studies in this area, because you have the opportunity for a brilliant career ahead of you. If we look at jobs, today there are 666 open jobs in quantum computing. And I want you guys to take note of this link. This is a newsletter that comes out from Oak Ridge National Labs. And it's a weekly newsletter, and it is free. And it includes, you have to page down, but it includes a list of all jobs that are open in quantum computing. And it also includes a list of open postdoc positions for those of you that are looking for a postdoc. For internships, one of my friends has just put together, I think yesterday or the day before, a list of internships. And so this is another good website to check if you are looking for internships. What I'm hoping is that by these different groups posting this information, it becomes easy for you to access and to find out where you can go get some experience working in companies or academic positions. Now, some good resources to learn about quantum computing. I know Ziki mentioned that he is working on training programs. There is also a website called quantumcomputing.com that has been out for about a year, but has some very good coursework at different levels. There's also a website called Quantum World Detangled, which is a weekly podcast with different kind of famous personalities in the quantum world. I do this podcast with 2 other people. We love it because it lets you see the personality of people. I think too often we read a paper, but we don't have a vision of the person. And so this podcast is designed to let you get to know different people and their personalities that are in this world. Some of the data I've shown you has been from a website called quizdata.com or quantuminformationsystemsdata.com. So I encourage you to visit that website. There are some good lower level courses. Qubit by Qubit is an organization that teaches high school kids quantum computing, but I know a lot of non-high school kids that take this as well because it's a really great introductory course. And then finally, I just had a conversation with Ziki. There's a website called scirate.com. And what I like about Scirate is that it shows you the most popular papers out right now on arXiv. And I think we all are always inundated with the number of papers and trying to pick out which papers we want to read and which are the good ones and which are the not so good ones. And so a lot of times I cheat and I go to Scirate and I look at what the top papers are for that week. And those are the ones that I read. So that's just a little tip for you if you're looking for a way to make it through all the masses of publications. Scirate is a good resource for you. There are also a lot of different events in quantum computing. The next big trade show that is Inside Quantum Technology. It's May 17th to the 20th. I love this event. It's one of my favorites. You can register now. It's very inexpensive. They also have academic rates. It's iqtevents.com. And then there are a lot of free events that are meetups. And if you want a list of that, go to quantumappalooza.com. And what's nice about this website is you can adjust it to your time zone and you can find events all around the world that can give you further education in quantum. So a lot of times, it'll be 6 o'clock at night and I'm bored and I'll say, do I want to watch TV? No. I'll go to Quantum Appalooza and I'll find an event that's happening right now somewhere in the world and join it. And it's a lot of fun and you get to meet a lot of different people through these events. That's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for listening to me. If you want to reach out to me directly, here's my email address. And I'm open to answering any questions that you might have or talking about quantum. So please ask me a question.
Thank you. Thanks. I actually gathered some questions from YouTube, but Figen, if you have any questions prior to those, you can ask now.
Actually, I want to ask you, please explain why Turkey wasn't on that map. Maybe
Me?
you can start with it. Yes.
Actually, we have a firm in Turkey, but it's more related to quantum sensing, quantum cryptography, but not quantum computing.
Will you send me that name?
Yeah.
Send that to me so I can add it to the list. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, of course. I have this whole list. I can send you the list as well. Maybe you already have the full list, but yeah, we would really love to see a company in Turkey taking the lead, trying to get into this quantum race. So one question, the first question we had on YouTube is basically about China. So you have shown this huge amounts of investment from China. And the person who asks the question wants to know, will China be the leader of this quantum revolution? Will they, be the best at this? Because the numbers are so different. The China is basically pouring funding like $10 billion and the rest is not. I know it's not the entire story because what they're actually doing is infrastructure work. They are developing this huge quantum network, and but you can explain much better.
So no, I can't actually. China hasn't been very transparent about what they're doing. We know there's a lot of investment, and we get little news bits here and there. But I would say I have yet to really see what China has been doing. We know there's just a lot of investment and there's a lot of very smart people there. So I'm assuming that they're doing some great work, just as there's many companies, other companies in the world doing great work. So, quantum computing is like a race or it's not today, it's what's going to happen over the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years. And I think we're going to see a lot of different leaders and a lot of different news items almost, or accomplishments over the years, and it will switch from country to country and lab to lab and company to company. So I can't give you a lot of details on China.
Thank you. Also, I will share with you one of my studies. We looked at the patents coming out in the tech. And, there's this huge talk about China has most of the patents, China is patenting everything. But what it turns out that China is mostly patenting at home. So let's say there are 2,000 Chinese patents, 1,950 of them are in China. So I think it is still safe to say that they are not looking to expand into this international market. Not yet. I mean, they are coming strong.
So there was a good review paper, I think, on Archive on Patents. And if you want, I can dig up that reference for you. But
that would be great.
Let me write that down. But there's a lot of questions of patent to patent or not to patent. I do believe in creating intellectual property and patenting. I think probably one of the leaders in patenting in quantum is IBM, who always very much emphasizes creating IP. But there's a lot, and I'll send you a review paper on it.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And the second question is about the quantum volume. So this is from Kubra, if I'm not mistaken. She is actually at the Oak Ridge National Lab. And she wonders whether IonQ has all-to-all connectivity in your qubits to reach that. Oh.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. And I think that's why I emphasized that in the slide, because when you don't have all-to-all connectivity, right, you're doing swap gates, and that just adds error. And so I think all-to-all connectivity ultimately will be a very important feature for whoever wins the quantum volume race, simply because it just really helps you achieve a better quantum volume.
And I have a question regarding quantum volume. Why is it 2 to the power of n and not just n?
You know, I can't answer that, but INQ is thinking about just going to n because the numbers are getting too big. So, you know, 2 to the n, I think it was because when we visualized doing this metric, we didn't imagine the improvement would happen so quickly. And so I just think that's kind of why I love the metric, and I love that IBM took the leadership in putting it together, but also now they have other groups like in the US, kind of in a US QEDC, that are looking at what is a different metric. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that 2 to the n is probably not the best way to represent quantum volume. So I think that there will be a change to it, but I think the concept inherently is very good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Instead of just counting the qubits, you can count what you can actually do with the qubits.
So I'll tell you an interesting story, which is in IBM for many years, I worked in high performance computing, and it was very hard to compare a high performance computer to a high performance computer. And so they come up with flops, they come up with all sorts of different metrics. And so it was really the high performance computing side of IBM who went to the quantum side and said, you guys need to have a metric, or there needs to be a metric, because someone may have 1 million qubits, but they're really lousy, and your qubits are better. And how do you represent that? So I still think that it was a really great idea, and how IBM put it together was very good. So we'll see more on whatever that measurement is and whatever they call it.
Thanks. So I'm reading the questions. We have 2 more from YouTube. One of them is, it looks like USA focuses mostly on quantum computing, not on quantum communication or quantum metrology, even though quantum computing has the most speculative roadmap among the others. Why is that choice? Actually, I disagree with the question. US has rather great quantum metrology companies as well, but this is a question for you.
So I'm with you. I think that the slides that I presented were more around algorithm development and hardware development. And I could give you a whole other talk on companies that are involved in quantum cryptography or metrology or quantum internet. And so there's a lot more data. And if you want, I can recommend another speaker that can talk about that part of the field. I tend to be focused more because I've worked for 2 hardware companies and 1 software company. That is really kind of my focus and expertise, and that's why I stuck to that in my talk.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great. And yes, and to be honest, quantum computing is much more on the news, let's say. So other than quantum radar, nobody is really that interested in quantum metrology in terms of news. You know, people don't make news on, oh, we can get this atomic clock that is 10,000 times better than the previous. I mean, what's the point on that in terms of making an article out of it? And the other question is, we are getting more questions. What about quantum computing jobs for software engineers? Do quantum computing companies need experienced software engineers? So
really, there's 666 jobs. Go to that link through ORNL. There are all sorts of software jobs. They do want you to know Python, and they do want you to start knowing QuizKit or other SDKs in quantum, which is pretty easy to get educated on, but there's a ton of jobs. So I encourage all of you, so I'm going to give you my job lecture. So the other night in Women in Quantum, someone said, you know, Denise, I don't have 90% of the description on this app, you know, on this job posting. So they want all these different things and I don't have it all, so I can't apply. And it actually reminded me of a conversation that we had just had that day at INQ, where somebody had applied to a job and they didn't fit. But when we looked at their resume and we looked at their skills, we said, wow, this is really great. And so even though it's not a, 100% match or a 90% match, we want to talk to this person because we like the body of work that they've done and we feel that they can provide value to our company. And I loved that conversation because it reminded me that we all need to try, and here's someone that didn't have what the job was asking for, but sent in their resume. And people do take a look at the resume and do try to see what you can offer. And maybe you're going to fit in a different part of the company, or maybe you're going to fit a little differently. But we do look at all resumes and consider them. And if you look at the industry as a whole, Amazon came to our career fair the other night. They had 50 job openings. So wow. With needing 50 people, you kind of get to a point where you say, I need someone, this person is 75% there or 60% there. Can I help them develop? And so I really encourage you to try and to look at jobs and say, I want to do that, or I might have that, or I'm going there, because there's really a lot of opportunity. And I think all of us, and myself included, we talk ourselves out of it. Oh no, I could never do that. Oh no, I don't have these skills. But the fact of the matter is whatever skills you have are very much in demand, and there is a lot of a market for you.
Thanks. That's a great encouragement for people who are kind of, discouraged to apply, because we see all these job postings and they want 5 years experience in that, PhD in this, and it just gets intimidating for some people.
So all of us need to tell our story. And so what is your story? Like, you've been interested in this is what you do. So tell your story. And it's amazing. It's amazing that we do look at the resumes. And then the other thing that's important is to have a network. So part of what I try to do at Women in Quantum is get people. So look, I know this wonderful lady in Turkey. I mean, would that have really happened without COVID or without Women in Quantum? Probably not. But now she and I have a network. So if I need something in Turkey or she needs something in the US, we can reach out to each other. And so it becomes more and more important for us to have networks. And a lot of times when I look for a job, I reach out to my network and say, what do you know of? And so it's important to apply for jobs, but it's also important to know other people and have a network. And you do that by going to events and meeting people. Someone emailed me the other day and said, would you please send me a list of professors I can network with? And it was like, it doesn't work like that. But go to events and meet people and talk to them. I'm a big believer in LinkedIn. Link with them on LinkedIn and start creating your foundation for a career in quantum computing.
I totally agree. And I met too many people because of One Quantum and Women in Quantum, like Denise, you, and the others. And they're so helpful. Just 3 minutes you chat because of that, your events, I mean. And yeah. I think the first day I met 75 people. I didn't believe in myself. What? How many hours I spoke? But 3 minutes and too many people you can meet. So as you said, they should just go to event and explain themselves. And also LinkedIn is a good opportunity as well. So yeah, I agree with you. Just I want to mention that things again. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. So what our software does on Women in Quantum is you go into this, they call it a cocktail hour or a social hour or coffee hour, and you go in and it takes everybody and it kind of mixes you up. And all of a sudden you get your picture on the screen and you get someone else's picture on the screen and you get their biography. So you can see, oh, this person, whatever, lives, whatever they put in their bio, lives in Turkey, is working on their PhD. And then it puts you together in a meeting room and you have a couple minutes to talk to each other. And it's private and it's just a great way to meet people and get to know people. And I love it because who knows if I would have ever met Feigen at a conference, right? And this is just a great way that we meet a variety of people with a variety of skills around the world. And it's a foundation for my network and it's a foundation for your network. So I think it's a wonderful thing. And I would say to you, networking is really important. And it's a big component in finding a job.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I will continue with the questions. And this is not a question, but Olli Hataka from Finland says hi to you. And oh, there's a question. So INQ announced that it has entered into a merger agreement, will be publicly traded. We discussed about this. Isn't it too early for quantum tech companies without any viable products? And how will the valuation process work? So the question is, isn't it early for companies to go public?
So I'm going to tell you that I can't talk about INQ specifically for reasons that I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, of course.
But what I will say is that it takes a lot of money to bring a quantum computer to the market. And there are different ways to get money. Many startups get venture capital money, which we have. And when you do that, you go into this constant cycle of you get money, then 6 months later you need money, then you get money, then you need money. And so that's one way to do it. It's very time consuming. I think what INQ has done is innovative and out of the box, and it's a great way to fund a long-term program. And it's, I think we're going to see more of it in the industry. Whether it's too early or whether or not, I can't judge, because I think all of us will agree that this industry is progressing much quicker than we ever anticipated. And so I'm going to say, ask me that question in 3 years, or let's ask each other that question in 3 years and say, was that too early or too late even? We don't know, but obviously INQ feels that it's time.
Thanks. And there are actually 2 related questions about quantum education. One question is from, I think it's from Yağmur. So they say they started physics education at university, and in 4 years, could they have a career in quantum computing? And another question is about, don't you think that it's the right time where the quantum ecosystem should be reaching out to non-quantum workforce of engineers, quantum engineers and all? And related to that, so we have been joining these workshops for IEEE quantum education, and also the flagships QT Edu, basically quantum technologies education workforce. And it is a really hot topic right now because people are all arguing that there is a shortage of talent. But as you said, there are 600 job postings all around the world. How many people do we actually need to train, and how fast? Because I remember seeing this report from Australia saying that there will be 16,000 jobs related to quantum computing in 20 years. So what are your thoughts on that, regarding the education and the workforce?
Okay, so right now, quantum computing is a very specialized skill. And I do think that, I know particularly in engineering at INQ, we've hired people that are not necessarily quantum, but just have strong engineering skills. So there are different areas of hiring where some areas like a theoretical physicist, you can't substitute that. But there are other areas where kind of a non-quantum trained person would also be good. What I will tell you is that when I hire personally, I give preference to candidates who have spent some time doing some homework on quantum and trying to learn it. And they may not be experts, and I'm certainly not an expert, but it certainly makes a difference when a job candidate shows interest in the field. So too often I'll see people say, yeah, I saw your job opening and I applied for it. And I say, do you know anything about quantum computing? And they go, no, but I can learn. And it's like, well, you should have watched a video a week ago, right? And come and told me about it. So, for those of you that are not quantum experts, but want a job in the industry, I would say, go ahead and apply, but also do some education beforehand. So at least you can show that you're interested and you can show some intent. Now, with respect to training, I think Ziki is doing a training program. There's a lot of different training programs out there because we do realize that as this industry grows, we need to develop a workforce. And it's something that everyone knows, right? And, but there are some specialized skills. And so like learning Circ or QuizKit, there are things that people can do to make themselves more valuable. And, but we are going to need more people. And that's kind of the reason why I started out with this silly book, because we need to start getting kids thinking about quantum computing. And we need to really start kind of, this is an industry of tomorrow. So we need to start influencing our kids to think about physics and build on this. So build on it in high school or build on it even in grade school. So I think that there are programs that are coming along and we're going to see more education programs over time. And the other thing I want to say is take advantage of different programs. For me, always the best way that I learned is when I took different classes on the same thing. And when you hear different people explain the same thing different ways, all of a sudden one day it clicks, where not always the first time I take a class do I really understand it. And so I love getting different perspectives. And so I encourage all of you to go out and get different perspectives in terms of coursework on quantum computing and on the approach to programming or engineering, because I think it really is important when you're building your knowledge.
Thank you. And okay, there is a final question. The person who's asking the question thanks you for the excellent presentation and talk, and asks you whether you could show. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, so it says my internet connection is unstable.
Oh.
You were talking so slowly.
Yeah. So. That was the final question.
About
you
said
the presentation.
Whether I could show, and then I didn't hear it.
Whether you could share your presentation with them.
Can you share the
presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So they should reach out to you, right?
Sure. So do Denise at onequantum.org, and I'll put it in the chat, and I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. So it has been 1 hour right now, and we thank you for spending this time with us. I think it's early there, right? Really early.
No, it's not that early. So I normally get up early. And right now it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's not bad at all. And it's fun. Like we're all at home. So I was in Turkey this morning. So I think that's wonderful. So thank you. And thank you for joining from Finland and from ORNL. So it's fun that it's an international crowd of us that got together.
And we thank you too. Figen, do you want to close this talk?
Yeah, I just want to thanks a lot again. And thanks all the attendants as well. So thank you, Denise. See you again.
And hey, everybody, link with me on LinkedIn, link with Figen and Zeki too. Let's all be connected and have a great network. Yep. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So we should